Morning, everybody. Welcome to the channel. I finished the series Counterpart. And what Counterpart did was it completely pre-programmed the world for the spamdemic, or at least for the people that watched the series. So this will be the final decode. And of course, we're going to look at this trailer that I uploaded yesterday. We're going to break this down, 7-minute trailer. But before we start this decode, I want to talk a little bit about why we do what we do here and what the entire point of this is. We aren't stuck in the mud. We aren't focusing on the wrong things. And we have to remember Jesus' example, that he went out into the world and he used real world situations that were full of evil to expose it and to show the truth and the light. Now, I ain't no Jesus, of course, but we're supposed to try to follow his example. What did he do all day? He was around people that were possessed by demons. He was around the sick. He was around people that were attached to greed, that didn't want to pick up their cross and follow him. He was in the temple challenging the Pharisees and their evil. He didn't just sit in a corner and sing praise music or only talk about how he couldn't wait to get off of this planet. And unfortunately, my Christian counterparts, many of them have resigned themselves to just waiting for him to come back and not doing the work. The work is facing down evil. Why does it bother us to expose this stuff like Jesus did? Aren't we supposed to be fearless? Aren't we supposed to expose the injustices and evil in the world, which was his focus? Now, of course, Jesus had the power of healing. Many of us don't have that gift for whatever reason. Maybe we don't have the faith that's needed to do that. But the fact of the matter is that if you read through the New Testament and Jesus' experience, most of the time he was in the trenches. And we have to understand that 95% of the world is lost and deceived. And that needs to be challenged and fixed. Not just saying we're going to go sing praise songs in a corner and not get involved. Now, if channels like this were seen by half the world, then I would say we could spend a little bit more of our time doing other things. And we are the body of Christ, so we all work as appendages or parts of the body. Some are good at praise, and if this becomes too much for you, then you can spend some time on praise channels, praise and worship channels. But don't condemn the work we do here, because this is very important work. The enemy uses the media, which 95% of the world watches, news and media. They use it to pre-program and deceive people. And that needs to be exposed and challenged. All that was hidden will be revealed. This is part of God's work, whether people want to believe it or not. So when people say you're getting stuck in the mud or you're focusing on the wrong things or, okay, we get it. I hear things like that sometimes. You guys, channels like this are a drop in the bucket and are still largely discredited as coincidence with some of the things we expose. So the fact of the matter is, this kind of work needs to be seen by half the world. And it will make a difference because people will stop trusting in the system. They'll stop believing that a government, for instance, has your best interests at heart, because governments are run by the enemy. They'll sugarcoat things and give you some prepackaged form of truth just to manipulate you into bringing you down the road of the enemy. That's their job. Now, the many that do come to this channel understand what we're doing here. And I understand that it seems like we get stuck on certain things, or, wow, this is maybe getting old, you're decoding things. But understand that even though you're awake, there are billions out there that aren't, that have never seen a decode like this. And if they were to see it for the first time, this would be the thing that would snap them out of their deception. So I wanted to say those words, and every once in a while I have to remind people, because those of you that come to the channel regularly, You can go, okay, we get it, but there's a lot of people that don't. So what can you do? Well, you need to get this in front of people that don't get it. If you've already gotten it, you understand the pre-programming, then get this in front of people that don't understand the pre-programming. This is what it's about. It's about spreading the truth and exposing evil. And the more people that can do that, the better. So when I see like my channel, yeah, we have 100,000 subscribers almost. But that's nothing compared to the amount of people that need to see this. So the people that do come to this channel need to share the videos more. Pick and choose which ones you share. Maybe some of the stuff you might think is kind of out there and you don't want to share the video on your Twitter or your Facebook or whatever the case may be, because you might think people might judge you or whatever. Well, the time for that is up, okay? The time for you being worried about what other people think about you is up, because I take special care and I put a lot of work into these videos to expose the enemy. And if no eyes are seeing them, or it's just the same people that come to the channel who are kind of here, some of which for entertainment or because it's so cool that I find this stuff, that's not getting the work done. These are things that need to be shown to other people. And you don't have to say a word. Just say, hey, check this guy out. I'm going to send you a video. Tell me what you think. And that's how this information gets shown to the world and other people that need to see these things to wake up. Now let's get into the series. This will be the last analysis of the series, called Counterpart. Now the premise of the series is that there is this collider, a super collider called the synchrotron. They'll actually name it in this trailer that I put together for you guys. And what happens is this collider has some kind of a meltdown, and it causes an alternate but equal world to split off from ours. And the other world is accessed through a single subterranean tunnel. It's more like a walkway underground. And there's stairs going down, and then the stairs come up the other side, and you're in an alternate world. And so what happens is they seal off the buildings around this tunnel, and they built this secret organization to conceal the secret. And things start out okay until one of the 4 scientists who created it, he kills his counterpart in a fit of rage and jealousy. What happens is they do an experiment and they change circumstances on one side in one world to see if it will have any ripple effects. And in fact, it does. The small change that they make in the other world to break the mirror, so to speak, ends up causing one of the scientists' son to die. So he then gets jealous. He realizes that his counterpart and his son are totally fine, and he starts secretly sneaking across the crossing into his counterpart's world so he can see his son. And then this escalates into a fit of rage and jealousy, and he kills his counterpart. Now, what you're looking at on your screen right now is the real-life synchrotron in Australia. Now, do you notice anything peculiar? There's a big letter that shall not be named at the center of the synchrotron. Now, wrap your brain around this. This was 2018 that this aired, and it was probably filmed in 2017 or 2016, in the infancy of the movement. So let's get into this trailer, and then we can talk about what this split world probably represents.
He gave me these pills before he sent me here. Said they were immunizations.
Now, that was Howard. There's 2 Howards, H and H, 8 and 8. And the actual group that originated this gulf, or this break, this split, this twin world, there were originally 8. Like I said, one of them kills his counterpart, and they put him in jail. So then there are only 4 and 4 or 3 and 3 left. So that was Howard, and he's one of the counterparts, and he's in jail. And he talks about how he was given an immunization, and he feels like he's just a tool or an experiment.
Ich brauche einen Termin für eine Grippeimpfung.
This guy says, I'd like to schedule that shot. So this is our world now.
I wonder if there's been a moment in all of this when I wasn't being exploited.
The release of a viral strain that spread through customs to our world. Said she'd heard of experimentation in the early 1990s. Biological. Intention unclear.
She had evidence that her side caused the flu.
Management thanked me for bringing it to their attention. Told me it would be handled. Then I was transferred.
So where is this flu virus?
I have no idea. It could be anywhere. I've been testing it for years.
So basically, the premise behind this is one world creates a flu virus as basically insurance in case the other world tries to attack them in some way. And they justify it by saying, if we're having this conversation, then they're having this conversation. So it's all based out of fear. And then it is released, the virus is released into the other world, it kills 7% of the population. And the whole rest of the series is basically this terrorist group who are trying to enact revenge by releasing their own Bioweapon back into the other world. And they wanted to also close the crossing so there can be no more interference between the worlds.
To get the symptoms right.
Testing what?
A flu virus. This is how she restores the balance. She subjugates your world like your world subjugated ours.
How come it's not?
So there you heard the backstory there. Now this particular part of the decode is one of the actresses when she was a little girl back in 1984. And she's talking to her mother about wedding rings and how they originate from ancient Egyptian alchemical sorcery. And the wedding rings are described as a thread that connects your soul to your finger. Listen.
Gold.
What?
Your ring, it's silver.
They believe there was a very special vein that ran all the way from the heart to this finger.
Is that true?
No. People used to tie strings around their spouses' fingers.
Why do people wear them anyway?
Dates all the way back to ancient Egypt. Science was primitive.
But Daddy says the pyramids were up.
Emily, darling, can we not talk about your father right now?
So, what that was, they're probably talking about the vagus nerve. A vein that connects your heart to your finger is probably the vagus nerve, which is what we've been talking about here. Now, this next part, this is actually her all grown up. Emily all grown up, and she, of course, has a counterpart. Everybody in this series has a counterpart. And she ends up communicating with her spy, who's from the other side, through a library book that they check out. So she'll check out the book, put a message in it, return the book, then her spy checks out the book, finds the message, and this is how they communicate, because it's very secretive. Like, this program is very secretive, and they try to maintain that secrecy, because if the world found out what was really going on, then they would freak out, right? They would have chaos. So they have to communicate in secret ways. Now, here's the interesting thing. The book that they use, that she uses to communicate with the spy, is a very evil book. And it's not just an evil book. The book involves a scene, a Hollywood scene in a film. This film, that I can't even say the film, because already when we talked about it during the last show, YouTube flagged the video. So this is the name of the book. You can see it here. Let me blow it up. Okay. And this is actually required reading for all people in the country where this book originated. The name of the country spelled Germany. And there's something very dark about the film by the same name that was made from this book. They depict an 11-year-old boy doing very adult things with a 24-year-old girl. Why would they include this in the series? Well, the inference, because there are children in this film, they're basically radicalized from birth to replace their counterparts on the other side as spies. Let's keep watching. I can't say it. So here's the little boy here, and you'll be able to read on your screen what happened if you're interested in looking into this. But this is very dark stuff, you guys. Now, this to this day, this is hailed as a great work, and so this gives you a snapshot into the mind of these people and what they're really looking to do. This is all subliminal.
It was rather easy for her to pull off. Acute arsenic poisoning. The symptoms were similar enough, and with so many bodies, no one was looking for a cause. You really think it was the flu that got them? Hundreds of millions were dying back then.
So she becomes one of the spies. She's raised from birth, groomed from birth to infiltrate the other side. She marries the director of the crossing, deputy director, and is able to allow them to come through and bring the Bioweapon, right? Which contains the virus. And she's listening to a recording, and she's starting to question her allegiance to the secret group. It's called the Indigo Group, by the way. We all know about Indigo children. And the Indigo Group is who grooms and brainwashes and radicalizes these children. And she starts questioning everything because she finds out through that recording that you just heard that her parents did not die in the spamdemic, but rather they killed her parents to radicalize her even more, to make her believe and hate the other side.
And do you think anyone...
And he talks about how in the chaos that they were able to use arsenic to poison people and take out people opposed to them, and nobody thought to do an autopsy. Nobody thought to figure out what was really happening and why these people are dropping off. So they were using the spamdemic as a cover to kill people, which is kind of, I believe, what's happening now. You know, the C to the D to the C talks about these adverse events, but they won't admit that they're connected to the actual VC. They won't admit that it's connected to that. But there's all these things happening, facial paralysis, people actually dropping out dead. There's people with rare blood disorders where they're bleeding from the inside out, all of which seem to be nerve damage and or immunological side effects. But yet here we are.
...to perform an autopsy.
Bring us details of the synchrotron, heat output, collated angles, and trajectories.
So that guy was the one who killed his counterpart. This guy right here. Not this guy, but this
heat
guy.
Output, collated angles. Bring us details.
This guy. He kills his counterpart, and he's the one that actually basically discovered or caused the rift. He caused the crossing. How did he do that? Well, he was a spy for America, and he basically agreed to trade these secrets. Well, while he was taking pictures of all the secrets, he failed to do his job, which was to abort the sequence, and there was a meltdown, and which opened the hole. That's what happened.
The synchrotron, heat output, collated angles, and trajectory.
Look at the pair in the background. See this? Everything has meaning in these films. That represents the split worlds. So he's like, hey, do the job, get us the the plans, get us everything, and then we'll give you a life in America. That's what they're telling him here. So this is him taking pictures of everything. He's going to do it, and then he doesn't cancel the commands, and then the thing ends up melting down. Then he walks in the tunnel and he sees his counterpart. He's like, what the heck? Okay, so what is this split world that we're talking about? Well, we talked about this a little bit in previous shows. How the first 6 generations of mankind were mirror images of one another. They were the twin seed lines with the same names on each side of the seed line. So you had Cain on one side and Seth on the other, and you had names like Irad, which was the counterpart of Jared. You had Methuselah, which was the counterpart of Methuselah. And you had 2 Enochs. And you had all of these names. There were exactly 6. Now, what could this mean? I believe it has everything to do with the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the mirror tree of duality. And so there's a spirit of good that opposes the spirit of evil, and it exists in the mirror bloodlines. Cain and Seth, the serpent and the woman, the bruising of the heel and the head. This was the first prophecy of the Bible. And somehow the two are connected to one another, even though they're opposed. So you got to ask yourself, what's really going on here? Well, the tree of life, I don't want to say it was split because the tree of life is still there, but we entered a new tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. From the tree of life to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why does our night sky look like a tree? This is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the synchrotron represents the magnetic field that imprisons us right here in the night sky. These are the eyes of Molech, the magnetic field of good and evil. And it exists above and below the horizon. So imagine this mirrored and flipped underneath this. A set of eyes would appear. And this is, in fact, is a magnetic field. It's a toroid field, they call it. So, what is this string that attaches us to the other side? Well, God told Cain that sin was crouching at the door. Here it is right here. He says, Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou dost well, thou shalt not be accepted, or shalt not thou be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. Look at this word door. Petak. Petak. An opening, a doorway, an entrance. Let's go down here. Doorway, entrance, entry, gate, gateway, gates, opening, openings. What was this door that the sin was crouching at? Look at all the places this word is used in the Bible. Doors are portals, or could be portals. Is this what God was talking about? So, our spiritual split could be physically manifesting as an actual person, born in our time, who is our opposite, just like the first 5 generations in the Bible, first 6 generations in the Bible. 6 and 6, our counterpart. Now, tomorrow's show, after we get done with this decode here, will be on season 2 of the OA. We'll get into that in a second. Let's finish this up.
Something must have happened when the particles divided and went into superposition. A quantum
particle divided
mechanical. Something must have happened when the particles divided and went into superposition. A quantum mechanical entanglement. I'll have to see if anything's left back there to analyze. Building housed an experimental synchrotron. Used various light sources to divide particles. Until recently, that is. Whatever process had created us, it was meticulous. We were identical. Now the whole experiment's changed.
It could be herd immunity, some small variation on a microcellular level.
So it's all the same language we're using right now. This was back in 2018, before a single person, before they even knew what CV-19 was, before a single person in China ever came down with it. Here they are talking about herd immunity and everything else that we're going through right now.
The environment changes, yes? Which means our immune systems must be growing apart.
It's too early to say that. You're talking about a weapon.
An insurance. For peace.
Listen to yourself. A biological weapon.
It would never be used. Could never be used. Just a precaution. If our immunologies have grown different, there could be a strain to affect them and not us.
Then why would we need such a thing?
Because if we're having this conversation, who's to say they aren't having it too?
It should never be used.
What you're looking at right there is at least what they want us to believe is CV-19. This is the pre-programming to instill fear that will cause people who saw this to run out and get the VC, because they've already subliminally been programmed to fear it. Now, for you and I watching this, we see that they already knew what was going to happen. Do you see how important this work is now? Do you see that once people decode this and see it for what it is, instead of it sitting in their subconscious mind and dictating their behavior and actions, now they can wake up to it. Now they won't perish because of lack of knowledge.
It's just a precaution.
Why do we need such a thing?
Because if we're having this conversation, then so are they.
The precaution you proposed was released into our world.
So there it is, the Munchen virus. And we showed you how Steve Mnuchin, which is responsible for distributing the VC, that this could be what they're talking about. Also, Munchen is Munich. Okay. So there's lots of stuff going on here. Now, there's some numbers. Looked at those numbers. I really couldn't really piece anything together with the numbers per se. But let's keep watching.
By the time the flu spread, the trust was gone. Accident or on purpose, no one knows. It doesn't matter. They developed new ways to talk.
So this is the original group that opened the rift, opened the gate, and in fear, because things start going out of control, they never really show themselves anymore from this point onward, from the 80s onward. They basically start using these cases, these cryptic cases, to communicate with the rest of the company, and they talk through them and they give orders, and everyone just follows their orders. Now, here you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because originally there were 8 total. There were 4 on each side, but like I said, that one guy killed his counterpart, and there were only these left.
There can be two truths. God gave us both worlds. He's the creator of all things, and if all things means two Meccas, then God hears us both.
Now, of course, there's a lot of thought about what this tree of knowledge of good and evil is. Like, why would God create it? Okay, and look at these trees as options. As a creator, you have to also create free will. Okay, and you also have to understand that when there was unity in heaven, that the people or the spirits that are now evil may have helped co-create some of that in the beginning, as God delegated out certain things. We could actually be locked in the devil's tree. Okay? And that could have been part of the challenge to heaven. And God had to allow that. Because, when people go to try to discredit God, they'll say things like, well, why would he create a tree where where these things can happen? Well, maybe the tree started out good. But then when sin entered in rebellion, that tree then became evil. In other words, maybe the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was different. Maybe that was a tree where it was only reserved for perfect beings that understood good and evil. But then when sin entered the garden, which is what the Bible says, that tree that became a prison world, which is what we're in here. Now, what are these worlds? Well, they're just dimensions. So the tree of life, we're cut off from it. It's outside of our experience because we're in a sin prison. Okay? Whereas when we enter back into the tree of life, when all this is over, we'll have perfection again. We won't have any knowledge of evil anymore. Evil will be eradicated from the universe. In other words, your 10-speed bicycle will go back down to 3-speed bicycle. You won't have the option. You'll be unable. It'll be like a spiritual law that you cannot hurt another person anymore. Or the thought won't even come into your mind. So this is where we're headed, back to the tree of life. So don't get it all mixed up and start blaming God for creating a tree of good and evil, and don't get mixed up in that. That's sin. That's the enemy talking to you. Now, here they're talking in German. Oh, I said it. That one time that I said that now is going to cause me to cause this video to get flagged. That's how sensitive YouTube is now. So, you can't even mention certain countries. Now, look at this. They're getting injected with the actual virus. And they're talking about what they would go do if they had more time. What is their biggest desire of something they never got to go do that they want to go do? And these are the radicalized students that are now grown up, and their job and their only job is to release this into the other side. So they cross over and they start injecting themselves, and they're going to go into a train station and walk around and distribute this. And he mentions that he would see the Taj Mahal. Well, we all know that Mr. T, the one who made the VC, who, by the way, just told everybody at CPAC that we should all go get our shot. We'll do a full show on that in a couple days. But there's no questions left. If you had any question in your mind about his intentions when he created this. So, the student says, I'd go see the Taj Mahal. Well, we did a full decode on the film Snake Eyes that was filmed at the Taj Mahal. Snake Eyes is Mr. T. So, more confirmation.
Taj Mahal gesehen.
Warum?
Ein Mann, der seine Frau so sehr liebt, dass er ihr den Taj Mahal baut. So viel Hingabe ist bewundernswert.
I didn't get mine.
I know.
How come I didn't get a shot?
You're not coming with us, Ethel.
So you don't know where or how this flu is going to be released.
I saw him.
So Ethel stays behind, and her job is to take out more people when the house explodes. Now, here they talk about that this bee weapon is spread different than you would assume that it would be, right?
And some others moving these refrigerated boxes.
And you now think it was a flu virus?
Not a flu virus. The flu. The one they're going to release in this world.
Someone should tell his father that's not how you catch a cold.
Someone should tell his father that's not how you catch a cold. Okay? Now, most people know in the medical community that it's not so much particles in the air that spread this stuff. It's on surfaces. It's in food. It's putting your hand in your mouth. You ingest this stuff because it's everywhere, whatever it is. And so this is one theory as to how these things are spread. Most of it doesn't come from sneezing or all this stuff. Okay? And look at this. This is so creepy. So there it is right there. 2018. Look at this poor little boy. Wow. It says, put your jacket on, you're going to catch a cold.
I'll throw a hand grenade in this world and close the doors. Those fanatics are there right now, turning themselves into carriers for a virus.
They're releasing another flu.
Our comrades built a wall to keep the rest out.
So, of course, he's talking about the GERMA wall, right? But we know what the real wall is. The wall that everyone's deceived about. Yes, this will keep us in. That's what it's really for.
Flu.
Our comrades built a wall to keep the rest out. All it did was keep our people in. Prisoners.
Or to keep our people in. Prisoners is exactly what I've been saying. And a lot of people have been saying.
To keep the rest out. All it did was keep our people in. Prisoners in their own homeland.
So, this is Howard, and he figures out the plan. He finds the radicalized students who are going to release the virus through the train system. They each have train tickets going to different parts of Europe and America to distribute this. And look at what gate they're at. 20. He shoots them all. The plan does not work. And then you'll see he'll turn around and there's another 20 on the other side. That's 2020. And there are your two shots for the VC. Two shots. Throw us down the garbage can. You can't make this up, you guys. Now, there will be many decades, and we'll be on this, looking at trends of how the world changed, the health of the world has changed after this mass VC event. We're up to what are we up to? 70 million people now in America that have got the VC so far. And we will be on the lookout. The last time this happened, the world had changed. We had all these sensitivities to nuts and gluten. The world had changed. We had autism. The world had changed. And now the world will change again. And you might not see it right now, right away. But mark my words. Now let's go into the show here and make sure we're connected. It's Friday. I'm glad we all made it to Friday. We'll be back on air tomorrow with Season 2 of the OA. This is the OA here. And to my shock, the film depicts Biden as president. This was back in 2019, when nobody knew that Biden was going to run, let alone be chosen as the Democratic nominee. Nobody thought he would win. He was unelectable. He had tried so many times. So this depiction of him winning in the series OA was just as shocking to anybody that was watching it at the time. We'll get into this more tomorrow because I have another montage for you guys. But look at the date here. 3/22 Skull and Bones. It's titled The Angel of Death. And it's all about a game called The Letter That Shall Not Be Named, Symphony. It's an online game. This is how it starts out. I'm only into the first couple episodes, but you get the drift. This is called the OA. Look at this. Where'd it go? Oh, is it over here? Maybe I don't have it pulled up. Anyway, I wanted to show you how he didn't win the nomination until like June of 2020. That's when he won the nomination. So there's something going on here. Now I got one last thing for you guys before we get off of here. This is very important. Biden plans to change credit reporting and scoring. He wants to federalize the credit scoring system. You know how Experian and all that, that's our current credit system? He wants to federalize it. And of course, the article talks about the reason for them doing this is because of racial equality. We're going to bring racial equality to the system. You guys, I don't buy that. Credit is a function of taking responsibility for your own life. I don't think it has anything to do with race. But that's how they pander to their constituents. Everything has to be race, right? I have a credit score of like 705. The only reason why I don't have a higher credit score is because I don't carry debt. Ever. Because you're just paying a bank. Why not just save the money and do things that way? So they don't like that when you don't carry debt. Otherwise, my credit score would be 800 or 900. But look at this. This is what they want to do. They want to federalize and put out of business Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So as I read this article, you start to wonder, is this the first step to a social credit score? Wouldn't the first thing you'd need to do to get into a social credit score system, wouldn't you first need to take over the privatized credit reporting agencies? And this is what they're aiming to do. Now, this is China's social credit score system, and of course, their credit system is already federalized. And look what's happening over there. So, you decide you don't want a VC, for instance. If it's federalized, guess what? Now, you get a ding on your credit report because you did not comply. You're not being a responsible American. You don't care about your fellow Americans. You didn't get a VC. Now, you might not be able to qualify to buy a home, for instance. Which I think that's a racket too. Financing a home for 30 years, but that's a whole nother show. So, that's today's show. Let's let this catch up and then we'll go in here with you guys. Thanks everybody for showing up on a Friday. All right, there you are. So, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on all this. Thumbs up this video if you haven't already. And thanks everybody for going on to the backup channel, which is linked in the description. If you haven't already, we're going to try to do one live show a week over there. Build that channel up just in case something happens to this channel. So if you come to this channel and you don't see that we're live in the morning, we're probably on the backup channel. So just go subscribe over there and hit all the notifications. You can get email notifications too if you set up your notifications correctly. And so that's what we're doing on the backup channel. It's called Enter the 5T4RZ Unstoppable. Okay, I think it's all caught up now. Yeah, the 30-year mortgage, it slaves us. Because there's about 100 things that can go wrong in a 30-year mortgage. Divorce, illness. You could lose your job. Thanks, Ann. Thanks for the sentiment. God restores me every single day. I wake up. I look forward to this. There's no better job in the world than to work for the Most High and to expose the enemy. This is the most fun ever. Best job I've ever had. I enjoy it. Sometimes I take little breaks here and there, but for the most part I enjoy posting work for you guys. Thanks, Anna. Thanks for the love. Thanks, Marion. Okay. Yeah, I was just talking to my mom, and, you know, she still owes on this house. And she wants to leave this for my sister, but my sister's got to qualify for the loan. She says taxes went up. I think her taxes are like $3,000 a year now on this property, which represents a significant portion of her payment. And they just got you in a merry-go-round. Now that's fine for someone who works a career, maybe for the government. I wouldn't do it, but that's what my mom did. And who has a fixed income that's never going away and a healthy retirement. But for anybody else, it's impossible to carry that risk for that long. It's just impossible. It's like basically you're waiting to have it taken away from you. And for those of you that do own and you think it's all great to own a house, think about your life. Either you picked a good mate and spouse that never gives up, or you have a great job that never fires you. Okay? So don't knock it, because I've been there. I've owned 2 homes, so I get it. And, you know, on top of it, you're not even allowed to do a lot of things, you know, like there's a lot of rules here in California. We talked about that in the past. You can't start a fire in your own fireplace. They're talking about doing away with gasoline cars by 2030. Like, that's going to happen. They're not going to sell any new gasoline cars by 2030. And, you know, they're not building any new homes with fireplaces in them here in the Central Valley. Maybe up in the hills, not here in the Central Valley. There's all these rules on top of it. So you really don't own your own. There's all these rules. You can't do a lot of things that you might want to do. My mom's also getting harassed with her garbage collection. They're taking pictures of her trash and sending it to her in letters, saying they're going to raise her trash rates because she put the wrong items in the wrong bag. My mom is 72 years old. She shouldn't have to be dealing with this. Someone says it's Thursday. I got my days mixed up. It's the 4th. Oh, jeez. Sorry, guys. I'm just hoping for the weekend to be here, I guess. So it's Thursday. Days start running together after a while. But can you believe this? So my mom got really upset about this trash collection thing. Like, literally, we've got open bags of food waste sitting in our sink. Because you can't put that in with other stuff. And then you're supposed to put that in the grass clippings and organic waste bin. So that you got this wet, gross, moldy food sitting in the bottom of a trash can, attracting flies and smells. I mean, it's disgusting. This is what California has become. And if you oppose it or just don't play along, you get fined. So my mom, I told my mom, get a big black marker, right? And here's the crazy thing. They took a picture of the wrong trash can because they're all together back there with the neighbors. And it was their trash can that violated the rules and conditions, right? And I hate to complain about this stuff, you guys, but I talk about this stuff because you guys are going through the same stuff. You're being overburdened and overwhelmed with BS in life. And this is what they want. They want you on edge, on your heels. They want you telling on your neighbors. Because why does their neighbor get to put anything they want in their trash can? I'm going to call the trash company on them. You see how this works? See how it works? So they got the wrong trash can. They took a picture of the neighbor's trash can. I told my mom, get a big black marker and write our address on our trash can. That way when they take a picture of the trash can, they can't get the wrong trash can. And I go, what about people who walk by your house and put stuff in your trash can? I've done it. You see a trash can, it's half empty. You're like, oh, I'll just throw my trash in there. Well, you can get in trouble from someone else's mistake. It's just ridiculous. That needs to change. Why are we allowing this? Remember the days when the trash companies were happy to separate your trash because they made money off of your recycling, right? They would sort your trash. That's called a trash service. And they would recoup their costs by recycling your stuff. And they would actually have the trash go on these giant conveyors, and they would like sort through everything. And then like, what happened to that? I guess that's no more in this world. So this is the life we're living in now. Constant harassment, constant levels of stress that are unnecessary. Nitpicking, focusing on all the wrong stuff. Can't just be left alone. And this is why so many of us were opposed to these masks, because it was like the mask police were out all the time. Oh, sir, pick up your mask. It needs to go over the nose. I flew not too long ago, and on the plane they're like, it's a federal crime. You could be prosecuted and thrown off the plane. And they repeated this like 15 times in the airport. I just want to say, screw all of you. I'll just drive. But, you know, that goes. Sorry, guys. I'm just a little irritated. So, let's go back in the chat here. Thanks for the update on what day of the week it is. Yeah, don't hear anything about recycling now, do you? Mask of the Beast. Totally. Yeah, we don't delete posts here. It's YouTube holding back things in the chat. They deleted my own post in my own chat one time. I put the SEX word in there. So I was trying to describe something, and they wouldn't let it post. So they're deleting my own posts on my own channel. So don't get it twisted. I had somebody attack me one time. You have such an ego because you don't want to be wrong. You deleted my comic because I was correcting you. I go, seriously, do you really think that that's the way things are? So whatever. I get corrected all the time, just like you guys told me what day of the week it is. I don't care. I'm not perfect. So whatever. Thanks, Dev Star. That's my daughter's name. Devin. Gosh, she's 26. All right. What else do we have here? Yeah, I feel irritated too, Laura. I try to shed it and let it go, but sometimes, pops its ugly head up. We're allowed to vent sometimes. It's how you vent. Jesus vented, turned over money tables in the temple. It's like, get that stuff out of here. Smack down. So, yeah. And then you got Gavin Newsom, criticizing Texas governor for opening back up. It's like, dude, mind your own business. Leave him alone. So I just hope that Texas is on the right track in terms of, I hope they're not getting set up, is what I'm trying to say. Hey, if you're in Texas, be on the lookout. You guys, take control of your destiny. And if you see funny business starting to happen in your state, say something to somebody. Okay? Here's what I think's happening. I think the elite are tired of the charade. They can't do it anymore. They realize that there's so many people out there that aren't wearing masks. They can't just keep creating these numbers and deaths and all this. Because guess what? Flu season's over, or it's about to be over. So where are they going to find these deaths at? So now they're like, oh, we need a break. We can't do this anymore. So they're like, okay, That's probably what's really happening. Some of you believe Texas is getting tricked. That's possible. I just hope that's not the case. Some of you left California a long time ago. Yeah. Now, I will tell you, it's been in the high 60s and 70 degrees for the past 3 or 4 weeks. And that was nice. Being able to walk outside and, feel the sun on your skin. But it's like, at what cost, right? Now, here's the interesting part. This governor's a hypocrite here. Nuisance. So, San Francisco opened up too. So what does he have to say about that? Is that irresponsible too? Gavin Nuisance? Isn't that weird? They let San Francisco open. They're just hypocrites. And remember, Nuisance was the one that was caught out without, going to dinners and stuff without a mask. See, everyone forgets about all that stuff because everything is divided by lines of politics. So I laugh if people try to criticize me for picking on the T-man. I do as much picking on the left as I do the right. They're all hypocrites. And that doesn't make me an independent. They're hypocrites too. So you have to stand outside of all that. Use common sense. So don't let them apply labels to you. The minute a label is applied to you, you've already lost the battle. You've already been pigeonholed. And the way you blow people's mind is by speaking outside of the paradigms. Speaking outside of the paradigms. And then you confuse people. They like short circuit. They don't know what to say to you because you don't fit into their paradigms. They don't even know how. They can't even deal with it. Michael Angelo says, I wish Elon Musk was simply a perfume. That's pretty funny. Elon Reeve Musks. We decoded that. The reaving, the spiral, the serpent spiral. All right. Yep, zero carbon means zero human life. Yeah. All right. I think that was a pretty full show today. I don't want to wear you guys out. Be on the lookout. I will be uploading that the OA and another montage for our show tomorrow. Love each and every one of you. Have a great day. Be saved if you haven't already. Much love.